My name is Corey McCorkle, and I chose Hindu wedding foods and Japanese rice as my subjects in the Confront Cultures project. I'm also here with Alfred Lede.
And I have chosen Hawaiian poi and Pennsylvania Dutch cuisine.
And we're also here with Timothy.
I chose the Northwestern Native American potlatch and traditional American tailgating as my menus.
Awesome. What's your last name, Timothy?
Burrell.
Okay, Timothy Burrell. Okay, so I'll start and we'll look at discuss what I studied when talking about Hindu wedding foods. So I'm looking at my menu now. The first thing I put is coconuts. There is a ritual during wedding ceremony, that a coconut is placed in the bride's hands, and it's then, together with her father's hands, passed to the groom. Coconuts are considered a symbol of prosperity, and this ritual shows that the Hindu culture values the father-daughter bond and includes God in their ceremony because a coconut is also considered a divine offering to God. The second thing is something called jirakara, and this one was really neat to me. It's a paste of cumin seed and brown sugar, and it's crushed together and placed on the head of the bride or groom. They place it on each other's heads, and it's meant to symbolize the sweetness and bitterness of life and marriage. So they actually rub this paste in a wedding ritual, on each other's foreheads. To symbolize these two things. So I thought that was cool. They throw turmeric-colored rice at the end of a wedding, and this is a blessing because rice and turmeric represent sustenance and health. Turmeric is considered to have many health benefits in the Hindu culture, and it's believed that health is of utmost importance to enjoy life and happiness in marriage. And so the turmeric rice, the couple, by throwing it, the couple's promising to care for each other's health while married. And lastly, halva. It's served at weddings because it represents wealth, and it's considered a food for all Hindu special occasions. So halva will be served in many forms, from sweet to savory, meat or not, and it's a sign of wealth. So it says that halva should be free-flowing, and it represents the value that the Hindu culture puts on wealth. Okay. And secondly, I study Japanese rice, and this was interesting. So I'm looking at my menu. My first image is of Japanese sticky rice, and it's not only a food in Japanese culture, but it's also an occupation because people in Japan predominantly were rice growers. This was what they did, for money. So it's consumed 2 to 3 times a day, every day in Japanese culture. It is, something that's in every Japanese kitchen. Every kitchen has a rice cooker. It's similar to a TV in American culture. Every household will have one. So this eating habit of having rice 2 to 3 times a day, demonstrates the value that Japan puts on rice. It's not only a food at every meal, it's their work in cultivating rice and in their community because they cooperatively grow. That's how wet rice cultivation is in Japan. All these communities have to come together to share irrigation and things like that. So really, rice is the essence of the Japanese culture. Second, I have gohan. That is the Japanese word for both cooked rice and meal. So because this one word represents both rice and food, it shares this term because to them, there can't be food or meals without rice, which I thought was kind of funny. So the word gohan is extended in the Japanese language to be asa gohan, which is breakfast, lunch is hiru gohan, and dinner is ban gohan. So gohan is used to describe every meal of the day, and it means rice because you will eat that at every meal. So that kind of shows the cultural significance of rice. And then lastly, I discussed wet rice cultivation. So Japanese social behavior originated in wet rice cultivation. It's very labor intensive and it requires families to pool their labor and their water resources because of the way it's set up for irrigation and whatnot. The families are linked by these irrigation arrangements because the water runs downhill. And this puts an emphasis on group decision making and avoidance of friction, because families and neighbors will have to be workmates for generations. And this group harmony is called wa in the Japanese culture. And it's, to show the importance of working cooperatively and working together. So not only is it, wa group harmony used in cultivating rice, it's really a part of their entire culture, because at one point 90% of the Japanese population were rice growers, which is fascinating. Okay, those are my two menus. And lastly, I'll discuss my Fieldways log. So the research that I did, kind of acting as a cultural anthropologist, was to ask a few of my friends who we all go to dinner and a movie regularly, why they do this activity, like what is important to them, what values are demonstrated by having these girl nights where we all go to dinner and a movie. And so I emailed a few of my friends asking them why do they engage in this activity of going to the movie. And they said, they enjoy spending time with friends, they like to get out of their apartment, they say it's stress relief and it supports them to hang out with their girlfriends. And they say, that they're, highly social and valuing female relationships, working hard to maintain and strengthen friendships with women was important to them. And the personal values that they demonstrated by going to dinner and a movie is that, friendships are important. And one gal said that it allows her to be honest and have a sense of unity, that it helps her to build trust with other women, that it holds her accountable to being where she says she'll be, and also that social connection, is important. These girls grew up in Southern families and they love, kind of cooking and hosting and having, these girl nights. So I learned that they value friendships as a way to balance their busy work lives and grow their perception of the world by being with a diverse group of women. And it helped me to understand that sometimes people just need to be social and get out of their isolated apartments. And that's it. I'll pass it on to whoever would like to go next.
Okay, this is Alfred. Then I'll go next. My menus was Hawaiian poi, and this is a cultural significance because it's their main source of starch, and poi is believed to have come from the child of the father of heaven and the daughter of earth mother, who gives a spiritual significance. And it's forbidden to argue at the table when you have a bowl of poi on the table. Second, poi is a root that is crushed using stone water and is either steamed or baked until it reaches a desired consistency. For every 2 pounds of toro root, you use a cup of water. Poi is eaten the first day, it will have a sweet taste. If you let it ferment, the longer it ferment, the bitter it'll taste. So it's basically a acquired taste from Hawaiian people. Everybody doesn't like poi. Most of the roots is just grown in the backyard of gallon buckets, and it's usually enough to share with others. So poi is a dish that has a lot of meaning, and they believe it is a child that was buried named Wakia. I can't pronounce. I'm sorry about that. They believe that the toro root comes from their ancestors considered an elder. That's why it's forbidden to disrespect your elders. So when you have a bowl of poi, you don't argue or fight at dinner time. It helps bring the young and the old society together and have respect for one another. The other one is Pennsylvania Dutch cuisine. It's a traditional cuisine. One of the traditions is hair potatoes. And they also like to eat asparagus. Most of the people here are proud, and they proud they had to be creative, and these foods are close to the land. The Dutch people like to grow their own food so they can prepare to preserve it for a week in the refrigerator, sometimes months in the freezer. Everyone has a freezer and a basement for this reason, so they can all preserve their food as when they cook it and they share it. They use fresh fruits, vegetables, meats, everything that they cook with is fresh. Nothing is old or dried or overcooked. They always make enough food so where they have to share with neighbors. They can do that. They always forecast the next crop from year to year. And Dutch people are proud people, and they value the land. And they are farmers and use everything that they grow and they raise. They don't just discard rid of anything. And they are good farmers, and culinary skills are something to be desired. Each family and person has a task to do whenever they're preserving and getting their food together. Everybody has something that they have to do to preserve all their food for the oncoming days. And field log, I did talk to a few friends of mine about barbecuing, and they all, think that they like to cook, and they all think they're the best barbecuer. That nobody can do better than them. They all do it because they want to have friends and family around. They like to get to good time, enjoy themselves, drink, eat, play games, whatever. They all of them are, like to have that society together with them. What I learned from that is that they value the family and friendship and having a good time on the weekends.
Cool. When you're ready, Timothy.
Oh, okay. I can hear myself. This is going to be hard. All right. So for my menus, I chose the Northwestern Native American potlatch, which was a Pacific sort of ritual or ceremony that people on the Pacific coast did. It involved having basically a tribe-wide feast that was put on by a specific person who had an excess of food that season, whether from fishing or they had captured a particularly big whale or whatever. They would throw a feast with all this excess and the surplus of food and feast their neighbors. When researching this, I wonder if the term potluck, when we have basically community feasts, didn't derive from this word potlatch. As time went on, the Northwestern American Indians started doing this more as an event to celebrate significant events, rather than just because they had extra food at the end of the season. Today, the culture throws these generally for births or weddings and stuff, and can be an event that is up to a year of planning by the host, and their social standing is judged by how well they can throw this event. Traditionally speaking, the main dish of the potlatch, though by no means the only dish, is fish or seal with seal oil, and this is derived from the origins where it was ultimately an event that came about because they had extra fish from the season. The second thing that I picked was American tailgating, which is much more of a modern event, one that is typically came about because of American football, though it can be found in a few other sporting events. It originated 100 years ago or so when people would take picnics to the local sporting event. When your town played another town in football, or everybody would go and everybody would take a picnic basket with food, and that's how they would spend their day. Today, it's very much a planned event, and and to some people even more important than the actual sporting event itself. When you think of tailgating, generally speaking, you think of the almost festival-like environment of around a football game where everybody comes and they open up the beds of their trucks, barbecue chicken or hamburgers or something, and just hang out with each other before, during, and after a game. I think that tailgating is very indicative of the American culture, where most of our sports are spectacles, but that's a very passive activity for the fans, and tailgating is completely fan-generated. To them, it's become almost part of the sport itself, and many of them feel it's their contribution to victory, going out there, supporting their team, basically surrounding the stadium with their, I guess, an environment that is generated by their culture. My field log, I went and I asked a few friends of mine. We're in a study group together. Generally, after the study group, we'll go out and just hang out. Asked them several questions and recorded each of the unique answers, and there were a lot of them said the same things. The time that I specifically went and asked these questions, we had gone out to get ice cream after the study event, and asked them why they do this, and by and large, they said it was socialize and relax. Basically, after a study session, it was a good way to unwind and settle down. Something that I noticed when observing this activity is, generally speaking, these people choose to go to a place that has a quiet atmosphere, like a fast food joint or whatever, or ice cream, rather than going bar hopping, which shows that this group of people values the close intimacy of just hanging out and conversing with friends, rather than the specific purpose of getting drunk or what have you. Those are my three contributions.
Awesome. That was interesting. I feel like I learned a few things from all of our menus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we need to discuss the commonalities and differences. So I definitely noticed there was some commonalities. With the menus, it seemed like, my Japanese rice had wa. I was talking about group harmony. And, in Alfred's case, Pennsylvania Dutch cuisine had every single person had a part in that, like, pickling process or whatever process it was that they were using to preserve their food. Like, every family member, he said, had a part of the process. And then, certainly, and it sounds like in your case with like potlucking, like every person like brings something, at least in modern potlucks, every person brings a dish. So it kind of seems like this idea of like everyone has a role. Certainly with tailgating, same thing. Like you bring the barbecue, you bring the beer, you bring the potato salad. Like there's this idea, this commonality that there's a group effort. Everyone kind of has to contribute.
Yeah, and I know everybody has
definitely have a tendency to socialize, especially with food involved.
Okay, Timothy?
What?
I didn't hear what you said. Alfred was talking to you.
I said human beings definitely have a tendency to socialize, especially when there's food involved.
Yes, our field logs were all the exact same. Basically, every single one of our logs said our friends value socializing, relaxing, being together with a group, so that was certainly super common, a super commonality. I was curious with your Northwest potluck what seal tastes like when you said that they have like a surplus of fish and seal. I was like, oh, what does that taste like?
Yeah, that'd be something to figure out.
Or in his case, poi. That didn't sound great either. No, I didn't understand ultimately what it even is, but it's like a root.
Yeah, it's a root that they mash together with stone and water to get us a consistency. And then when they first make it, it's supposed to be sweet, but as it sits for several days, it starts to sour.
You think?
And it seems like some of the people in the culture, they like it when it's sour. So that's why they eat it. And some people in the culture likes it when it's first freshly made and it's sweet.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, there was a couple different food things that made me curious, like seal, poi. Like, I'm not sure about that. So some of the differences, I mean, off the top of my head, Hindu ritual seems very strict. It seems, in studying their wedding rituals, they have a very set way that their weddings are run, and a certain food that is expected at every Hindu wedding. And certainly if a wedding didn't have halva, for example, I believe that's what it was called, it would, be like sacrilege. Like they wouldn't be a Hindu wedding without this food. So, it seemed like it was kind of more rigid in my study of like the Hindu wedding culture, whereas like tailgating seems pretty loose. Like there's no set food you have to serve. There's, no set menu. It seems like, with like the Pennsylvania Dutch, like they may be kind of similar in the way that they have like, their meat and potatoes seemed like that was their like staple food. But yeah, I think one of the differences I noticed is that, the Hindu food seemed to be a little more rigid, whereas the other one seems like can kind of be tailgating, can kind of be whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other things you guys want to mention on commonalities or differences?
Well, like I said, I know like as far as a ritual when poi is served, it's kind of like a Hindu ritual. Hey, everything has to be a certain type of way,
Okay.
or it's not going to be acceptable. So that's a commonality. And like I say, same thing, as far as the with the tailgating, when they the Dutch, when they do things for everyone else. Also, food they share.
Oh, that's nice. Like the potlucks are.
Yeah. If they have enough for the less fortunate, they will share their food with each other. So everybody would can eat.
That seems nice.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Timothy's right, and that's obviously probably where potluck came from. Where the
I wouldn't
term.
be surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Anything, Timothy, you noticed commonalities or differences? Or I'll move on.
Well, as I already mentioned, the whole socializing in food seems to be a running theme in all 9 contributions. Also, I noticed that the American-based ones, specifically the ones I did, were more based around the activity, whereas your Asian ones, the Hindu and the Japanese, were based around the food itself. And I wonder if that's not a cultural difference.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That would make sense. Cool. Okay, so now we'll discuss our group report. Do you guys agree? Is that where we're at on this recording?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to pull up this report and kind of what we have to do and the work that needs to be divided. Can you still see us, Timothy?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we decided to split up A, B, C, and D with Timothy starting from the bottom. Timothy's going to handle D, commonalities and differences in the food cultures across the 9 examples. And C, we're going to do as a group, but each individually, discussing how we did our field studies. And then the guys can email me, Corey, as the team leader, and I'll put together the description of how everyone conducted their field studies. And Alfred's going to handle B, definitions, in his own words, of the study of, cultural anthropology. And I'm going to handle A, which is kind of discussing how anthropology works and how food relates to anthropology, which we just kind of were discussing, how it seems like food is involved in every culture. It's deeply steeped in, in the different cultures. Like across the world, it sounds like anthropology and food go hand in hand because that is like how a culture can be studied, or one of the ways. And I believe that's it. Anything else it seems like we need to discuss?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Are we good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, we're good.
So then this is Corey, Alfred, and Timothy, signing off. Bye, guys.
All right.